Welcome to the Pixels and Projects podcast. Today, when we talk about productivity, the first thing that likely comes to mind is, well, everyone working together in real time. But in today's world, where teams are distributed across time zones, that approach isn't always realistic or even effective. That's where asynchronous productivity comes in.
And it's such a game changer, right? Like, it's about taking the traditional 9 to 5 model and throwing it out the window.
Exactly. Asynchronous productivity is essentially about people working on their own schedules. They focus on tasks when they're at their best, rather than trying to fit into a fixed window.
Yeah, and for teams spread across continents, it's a lifesaver. I mean, imagine trying to get everyone into a single time slot when you've got folks in, say, London, New York, and India.
That's a logistical nightmare. But the beauty of asynchronous work is that it's not just about convenience, it's about productivity. By allowing individuals to work according to their peak performance hours, we're not just getting the work done, we're getting it done at a higher quality.
Totally. And it's not just teams from different time zones that benefit. I've even seen it work wonders for teams right here in the same city.
Really, what happened there?
Oh, so one project I was brought in on for a new vendor integration. We had a small team, but everyone had different working styles. And, well, let me tell you, trying to sync up was driving everyone nuts. So, instead, we started documenting responsibilities and deliverables clearly and letting folks tackle their parts when it suited them best.
And how did that pan out?
It was amazing. Deadlines were met faster, and get this, people were happier. They weren't stressing about fitting a meeting in during a time that wasn't ideal for them. Everyone was just, in their zone.
That's such a great example. What you're describing really highlights the mindset shift that's needed here. Instead of forcing everyone to rally around the same clock, we need to adapt to the reality that flexible timing empowers people to do their best work.
Exactly. It's like instead of making everyone sync up, we're letting individual strengths shine. You'd be surprised at how much that boosts team morale, too.
And from a leadership perspective, it's a test of trust. You have to be okay with not seeing everyone online at the same time, and instead trust in their ability to deliver, regardless of when they're working.
Oh, for sure. And when you've got that trust, it's magic. The results speak for themselves.
Trust is key in asynchronous work, like we said, but the foundation of that trust is clear documentation. It's what keeps everything moving. Think of it as the baton in a relay race. Without it, the next person won't know how to keep the momentum going.
Right. It's got to be a smooth handoff. Like, no one wants to pick up a baton and go, wait, which direction am I running?
Exactly. And that's where clarity becomes crucial. Whether it's leaving notes in a project management tool or creating detailed handoff guides, clear documentation ensures the next phase of work isn't delayed.
Oh, and let me tell you about a project where this uh, lack of clarity caused a hot mess.
A hot mess? Now we're talking. I'm all ears.
Okay, so we were working on onboarding a new product with an external consulting group. There were tons of moving pieces, and ugh, no one documented decisions properly. People kept scheduling unnecessary meetings just to figure out what had already been done.
Sounds exhausting.
Oh, it was. But once we set up a shared document outlining what decisions were made and by whom, it was like chef's kiss. No more back and forth chaos. Everyone just knew what was happening.
That's such a simple yet powerful solution. And, beyond documentation, frameworks also play a vital role, especially for decisions. It's about defining how big decisions get made versus the smaller, everyday ones.
Yeah. Like, when do you need a group discussion and when can you just go for it on your own?
Exactly. For instance, smaller tasks don't always need approval loops, but things that might impact the whole team, that's when you involve multiple people, even if it's asynchronously.
And the key is setting boundaries, right? If there's a big decision, you don't want to be stuck waiting forever.
Oh, absolutely. You need to set timelines, like a decision matrix that defines how long someone has to respond based on the urgency.
That's a game changer. Picture it. No more vague, I'll get to it. Instead, it's like, hey, respond within 24 hours or sooner if it's urgent. It keeps the momentum going.
And momentum is everything. That baton we talked about, it doesn't sit idle if everyone knows their part and when they need to act.
Exactly. And once you nail that communication, whew, it's like a well oiled machine.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Structured frameworks, clear documentation. It's like we're building the roads before hitting the gas. And when you've got those roads laid out, technology can make everything even smoother. And speaking of keeping that momentum going, the right tools can make all the difference. Sometimes, having the right technology is half the battle when it comes to making asynchronous workflows truly click. Like Calendly. It's got to be one of my favorites for scheduling across time zones. It's such a time saver.
What I love about tools like Calendly or Zoom Scheduler is how they remove all the back and forth. You just send a link and boom, schedule done.
Yes, no more of those email threads like, does Tuesday at 3 work for you? Followed by 10 more suggestions. Or worse, suggesting a time only to find out it's, 2 a.m. for someone else? These tools handle that automatically. It's like having, I don't know, a scheduling assistant that works 24/7.
Exactly. And it's not just about meetings. I mean, half the battle in async work is protecting your focus. And that brings us to my second favorite concept of this whole conversation: deep work days.
Ah, yes, deep work days. Those sacred, uninterrupted blocks of time to just dig into meaningful work without the constant ping of notifications.
No meetings, minimal distractions, just you and your task list. It almost sounds too good to be true, right?
It does, but it works. I've seen it firsthand. At one of my companies, we introduced no meeting Wednesdays. The first few weeks, it was, let's just say, an adjustment. But once the team got into the rhythm, productivity went through the roof.
Of course, because no one's getting yanked out of their flow. Honestly, I think every team could use at least one no meeting day.
Completely agree. The key is setting those boundaries, though, letting your team know, hey, I'm off the grid for deep work unless it's an emergency. That way you can really focus without feeling guilty.
Totally. And it's not just about saying, don't bother me. It's about creating a culture that values concentration and respects those boundaries.
Absolutely. When everyone's on the same page about what the expectations are, you get more done and better quality work too. It's like we're building a team environment that supports both individuality and collaboration.
And that's the sweet spot, right? Balancing async tools, deep work, and good practices so everyone feels both productive and, honestly, less stressed.
Exactly. The stress part is huge. I think ultimately these workflows aren't just about working smarter, they're really about working in a way that's more sustainable, a more human way of working, as we said earlier.
Couldn't agree more. So, to all our listeners, take stock of your pain points, try out these tools and strategies, and don't be afraid to experiment. Remember, it's all about finding what works best for you and your team.
And on that note, we'll wrap it up for today. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, keep pushing the boundaries of how we work and create together.
Yep, and we'll see y'all in the next Pixels and Projects podcast. Until then, stay curious and keep experimenting.